I'm Skylar. Thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to do a class that's for the shoulders and for the hips. But we're not just going to work on opening up the shoulders and the hips and working on flexibility. We're going to be also working on strengthening these areas of the body so that we will have more stability, and so it'll be safer for us to work on that flexibility. So let's just start in Sukhasana, or easy pose. Let's come to a comfortable seated position. Cross the legs, just bringing one shin in front of the other. Close the eyes. Let the hands rest on the knees. And start to really deepen your inhales. And lengthen your exhales. Letting the mind relax. Bringing your attention to the present moment. The breath flowing in and out. Feel the sensation in the nostrils as you breathe in. Just notice the air hitting your upper lip as you exhale through the nose. Get started with some seated warm-ups. Bring your hands together, interlace the fingers, push the palms up towards the ceiling. Inhale and exhale. Bend to the right side, stretching the arms up and over, trying to keep that left hip rooted into the mat. Inhale, come up to center. Exhale, left side, keeping both sides of the hip planted into the mat. Reach up and over to the left, lengthening through the side body. And come on up back to center. On your exhale, lower the hands and twist to the right. Bring the left hand to the right knee, right hand behind you. And turn your gaze over your right shoulder, look behind you. Inhale, hands up. Exhale, twist to the left. Inhale, hands up. Exhale, twist to the right. One more, inhale, hands up. Exhale, twist to the left. And come back to center. So we're going to start to really open up the chest and the shoulders, coming onto all fours. And coming into heart-melting pose or puppy pose. You want to keep the hips stacked on top of the knees and just walk your hands out to the front of the mat. Bring the chest down, bring the forehead down to rest on the mat. And just come back to your breath. Feel the lungs expanding in the ribs. start to walk your hands back, coming back into a tabletop position. Bringing the shoulders directly over the wrists. Take your right hand and twist it up towards the ceiling, trying to keep the hips square to the floor. And exhale, sweep the right hand down, threading it through the space behind the left arm and in front of the knee. And just bring the hand all the way through, resting the right shoulder on the mat, resting the right cheek on the mat. And if you like a little deeper of a stretch, you can just walk your left hand towards the upper right corner of the mat. Again, just letting the mind relax. We carry a lot of tension in our shoulders and in our hips. So this is a perfect time to just let the weight of the world fall off your shoulders. And during this practice, just be. Just experience. And slowly start to work your way back into your tabletop position. And switch sides. Sweep the left hand up towards the ceiling, keeping the hips square to the floor. Inhale. And exhale, thread the needle, send the left arm behind the right wrist, bringing the left shoulder down to the mat to rest. Resting the left cheek on the mat. And if it feels good, walking the right hand up towards the front of the mat. And throughout this practice, your poses aren't necessarily going to look like mine. I tend to have kind of tight shoulders, so you may be able to go deeper than I can. Or not. And just know that the purpose is not to make the correct shapes, it's just to get the sensation in the body while keeping some steadiness in the breath. Not reacting, and always practicing non-harm, not pushing yourself too far. Not creating injury or dis-ease in the body. And start to work your way back up to your tabletop. And come on down, bring the stomach to the mat. And bring your right arm 90-degree angle to the waist. So the right arm sticking straight out. Make sure it's level with that shoulder blade. Your left hand is planted in the mat next to your ribs. And start to roll over onto your right hip, bringing the left foot behind the right knee. Opening up that right chest. You want to be very gentle in this pose. Making sure you don't overdo it. And if you feel like it's too much, just stack the hips on top of one another and just come out of the pose if it's feeling like too much in the shoulder. And we're starting out with these yin postures to help us come to the breath, to help us come to the present moment. To help calm the central nervous system before we move into the more active poses. Kind of training the brain to not react and to focus on the breath. And slowly and gently start to roll back onto your belly. And switch sides, not rushing, not hurrying, making sure you're being gentle with yourself. Bring the left arm out to a 90-degree angle with the waist, making sure that hand is in line with the shoulder. And slowly start to roll over onto the left hip, stacking the hips, right hip on top of left. Supporting yourself with the right hand on the mat in front of the chest. Just let the head rest on the mat. The right leg is behind the left knee. And just find the position that works for you. If you're feeling a stretch in the left shoulder and you're breathing, you're doing it just fine. Release any muscles that you're tensing. If you're clenching your jaws, let it go. If you're making funny faces, let it go. Just breathe. And gently come back onto the belly. Just bring the hands under the forehead. Just take a moment here to allow the shoulders to come back to neutral. And start to work your way onto all fours. And come into your first downward facing dog. We're going to move into a little bit more of an active practice at this point, getting some blood flowing, getting the body moving, getting us energized. Deep breaths in and out. Root the index finger, knuckles and the thumb knuckles into the mat. Make sure the fingers are spread. Push into the hands, straighten the elbows, bring the chest in towards the knees, and gently send the heels down towards the mat. And listen carefully, I say gently, okay? Because we don't want to go too hard on this first one. Being gentle with ourselves. Look in between the hands and walk the feet forward, coming into Uttanasana, forward fold. Feet are together, knees can be bent. You want to get length in the spine and drop the crown of the head towards the mat. It really doesn't matter if the hands are touching the mat or not. The hands could be at your shins. Basically, you just want to make sure that you're hinging through the hips and not rounding the back too much. And inhale, halfway lift. Bring the hands to the hips, and with the knees bent and a flat back, come all the way up to standing. And so we're going to get warmed up with a few sun salutation A's. Come to Tadasana, mountain pose. Big toes are touching, hands together in front of the heart in prayer. And just set an intention for this practice today. Maybe it's to open up the heart, maybe it's to ground through the root chakra, maybe it's just to engage in some self-care so that you can carry that energy out into the world with you. And sweep the arms down and up towards the ceiling. Inhale, look at the thumbs. Exhale, swan dive down, forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, halfway lift, lengthen the spine. Exhale, plant the hands down on the mat, step it back to the top of the plank, and come down halfway to Chaturanga Dandasana, bending the elbows 90 degrees, keeping them in towards the ribs. And inhale. Push into the hands, raise the chest, look up. Only the hands and the tops of the feet are on the mat. Upward facing dog. And exhale, roll over the toes, push the hips up towards the ceiling, and downward facing dog. And hold for 5. 4. 3, 2, and 1. Look in between the hands, walk the feet up. You can hop if you like. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, come all the way up to standing, flat back, reach towards the ceiling. Exhale, Tadasana, hands to heart center. Inhale, hands up, look up. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, step it back, top of the plank, and halfway down. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog, and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Look between the hands, step or hop forward. Halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, all the way up to standing, look up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Last one, inhale, hands up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, step back, plank, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Sweep the right heel up towards the ceiling, keeping the hips square, pointing those toes towards the floor. Send the left heel down towards the ground. On an exhale, bring the knee into the nose. Step the right foot forward. Interlace the fingers behind the back and come on up for a variation of crescent lunge. Pushing through the back heel, working towards a straight leg. Bend into the front knee, making sure the knee isn't sticking over the toes. Square the hips off towards the front of the mat for more stability. And exhale, bring the chest to the knee, step and bring your weight onto that front foot. Coming into warrior three. Toes are pointing towards the mat, pulling through the heel and the top of the head. Release the hands, come into standing splits, drop the crown of the head towards the mat, raise the top heel towards the ceiling. And bring that top foot to meet your standing foot. Sit back into the heels, bend the knees, chair pose. Interlace all the fingers except for the index finger and the thumbs. Exhale, forward fold. Going through an optional vinyasa. You can just meet us in downward facing dog if you're going to skip it. If you're with me, inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, step back, high plank to chaturanga. Upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Sweep the left heel up towards the ceiling. Keeping the hips square to the floor. Toes pointing towards the ground. Right heel rooting down towards the ground. Raise that left heel up as high as you can. Sweep it down towards the nose. And step the left foot through. And same thing on this side. Bring the fingers interlaced behind the back. Bring the opposite index finger on top this time. Find your stability. Square your hips off with the front of the mat. And inhale, come on up. Bending into the front knee, pushing through the back heel. Maybe you could make your stance a little longer. Feeling the opening through the chest. And exhale, bring the chest to the knee. And start to work your way onto that front foot, coming into warrior three. Trying to bring that top leg parallel to the floor, toes pointing down. Pushing through the heel, pulling through the crown of the head. And standing splits. Drop the hands, framing the standing foot. Drop the head down. Bring the top foot up towards the ceiling as far as you can. And exhale, bring the foot down to meet the standing foot. Sit back into the heels and inhale. Raise the hands up, chair pose. Pulling the arms back as much as you can. Look up to the thumbs. Sit back even farther. And exhale, bring the left elbow to the outside of the right knee for chair twist. Push into that elbow, lengthen the spine, and twist a little deeper. Inhale, come all the way up to standing, reach up. And exhale, Sit back into the heels, chair pose, and come right into the twist to the other side. Right elbow to the outside of the left knee. Lengthen the spine. Twist a little deeper. Bring the toes off the mat. Really putting your weight in your heels. Okay, come up to Tadasana. Mountain pose. Hands at heart center. Coming back to the breath. Feel the stability with your feet rooting into the mat through all four corners. Engage the quadriceps. Suck the navel in towards the spine. Roll the shoulders up and back. And inhale, hands to the ceiling. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale, step it back to plank. And hold here. Try to keep your heels on top of the balls of the feet. Suck the navel in towards the spine. Push in through the index finger knuckle and the thumb knuckle. You can drop the knees if you need a modification. Really pushing in through the arms for a rounding in the upper back. And drop the knees down. Bring the toes together. Knees nice and wide. And sit the butt back onto the heels for child's pose. Just walk the hands towards the front of the mat. Let the forehead rest on the mat. And come on back up to your downward facing dog. And let's keep going through the flow. Step the right foot forward. Come into a warrior one stance with the legs. Heel lined up with the heel. The back toes pointing towards the top left edge of the mat. And come on up. Bring the torso up, but bring the fingers to interlace behind the back. Pull the hands down, open up the chest, bend into the front knee. And exhale, come forward, folding onto the inside of that front leg for humble warrior. Pulling the shoulders open. Bringing the hand towards the front edge of the mat. And inhale, come on up. Switch your stance to warrior two. Checking alignment. Heel in line with the back arch. Bring the arms up to a T. Reaching through both hands. Turn your gaze over the right hand. Inhale, reverse the warrior, slide the back hand down the back leg, avoiding the knee joint. Reach up with the right hand towards the back of the mat. Keep the bend in the front knee. And exhale, coming into extended side angle. You can bring the elbow to the front knee, or you can drop the hand to the outside edge of the standing foot. Reach the left hand up towards the front of the mat. Look up. Fingers together, one long line of energy, rooting through the outside edge of the back foot. Bring the left hand to the hip and step into that front foot, coming into Ardha Chandrasana. This time the toes are pointing towards the side of the room. Hips are stacked. And if your balance is good, you can reach up with the left hand towards the ceiling. You can turn your gaze to the side of the room. And if your balance is excellent, you can look up towards the ceiling. Bend the standing leg, come back into warrior two, and go through the vinyasa. Cartwheel the hands down, frame the front foot, step it back to plank. You can meet us in downward facing dog if you like, but if you're going with me still, come through chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And let's keep moving. Going to the left side, step the left foot forward, coming into warrior one stance with the feet, heel to heel alignment, right foot pointing to about a 60-degree angle. And inhale, come on upright and interlace the fingers behind the back, switching the top index finger. Pull the hands back and down, open up the chest. Bending into the front knee, working towards squaring the hips towards the front of the mat. And exhale, fold forward, humble warrior. Dropping the chest and the head on the inside edge of that front leg. You can try to pull your hands up towards the front of the mat. You might experience a little more difficulty on one side than the other. It's okay, just go as far as you can, keep your attention on your breath. And just know that it is what it is. There is no perfect pose. And inhale, come on up. Come into warrior two. Heel to arch alignment, arms parallel to the ground. Gazing over the left fingers. Inhale, reverse the warrior. Keep the bend in the front knee. Slide the back hand down the leg, avoiding putting pressure on the knee joint. Reach over your head towards the back of the mat. Exhale, extended side angle. Either bring the elbow to the knee or bring the hand down to the outside of the front foot. Sweep the top hand up and over the head. Arm bone next to the ear. Look up towards the ceiling. Rooting through the outside edge of that back foot. Bring the right hand to the hip. Bring the left hand out about a foot in front of that standing leg. And come on up into half moon pose. Bringing the left leg parallel to the ground. Toes pointing towards the side of the mat. Reach the top hand up towards the ceiling, pulling through that top heel. Hips are stacked. Balance mostly coming from your legs. You can turn the gaze to the side of the room or up towards the ceiling. And bend the front knee, step it back to warrior two. I'm going to turn to face you. And let's come to a wide-legged forward fold. Straighten the legs. Feet about 4 feet apart. Bring the hands to the hips. Inhale, look up. And exhale, forward fold, hinging from the hips. Bring the hands down to the mat, lining up with the toes. Inhale, halfway lift, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, come down, forward fold. Let the crown of the head just fall towards the mat. Bending the knees if you need to. Inhale, halfway up, bring the hands to the hips, exhale. Inhale, come all the way up to standing. Step to the front of the mat. I'm going to stay facing you. Root into that left foot. And grab the right big toe with the peace fingers. And send that right foot towards the front of the room. And you can use a strap here if this is difficult for you. Root down through the standing foot. Exhale, bring the right foot out to the side, externally rotating the hip. Inhale, bring it back to center. Let go of the foot and balance. Using the core to bring that leg up, keeping the knee straight. And release, moving to the other side. Grab the left big toe with the left peace fingers. Inhale, come on up to standing. Find your balance. And push the left foot out towards the front of the room. Rooting down through that standing foot. And externally rotate the hip, bringing the left foot out to the side. And bring it back to center. Let go, balance. Pulling that leg up. And exhale, let it go. Sometimes you just gotta sigh it out. Step the feet about 3.5 to 4 feet apart. And point the toes out to the sides. Bend the knees, coming into about a 90-degree angle with the knees if possible. You don't need to come any further than that. You don't even need to come that far if it's hard for you. But just come down as far as you can without letting the knees extend over the toes. Cactus the arms. Pull the chest forward. Focus your gaze softly in front of you for goddess pose. Inhale, straighten the legs, extend the hands out to a T, point the toes forward. 5-pointed star. Looks really easy, but after some time, does tire out the shoulders, which means that it's building strength in the shoulders. So it'll be safer for us to work on flexibility. And release the arms. Feel free to shake them out And interlace the fingers behind the back, pull the chest up, look up, forward fold, hinging at the hips, releasing the shoulders, dropping the head down towards the mat. Coming back to the breath. And inhale, come on back up. And we'll go into Malasana. So bring your feet about mat's distance apart. Your toes will probably want to point out just a bit. Some people can do this with their feet parallel, but that doesn't work with my bone structure. So my toes point out a bit. Bring my hands to the heart center and just sit back and sit down as far as you can. Just bringing the butt almost to the ground if you're able to make it that far. You can always do this against a wall if you struggle with balance or getting all the way down. But just come down as far as you can. If you can, push the elbows into the knees, open up the hips. Pull the crown of the head towards the ceiling, getting length in the spine. And drop the hands to the mat about shoulders distance apart. Bring the toes to meet. Sit down just like a little frog. We're going to come into crow pose. So you can point the fingers inward slightly so your elbows will come out and make a nice little shelf for your knees to sit on. And if you've never tried this pose before, don't feel the need to come off the ground with the feet. Just do what you can. Okay, so lift the hips up, bring the knees as close to the armpits as you can. And just rest the knees on that little shelf on your arms. Look forward slightly. And just start to bring your weight forward. And maybe you can lift one foot off the mat. Maybe you can lift both. Bring the feet towards the hips. And come on back down. All right, coming into the seated poses. Bring the left foot by the right hip and the right heel by the left hip. Working towards stacking the knees. That may or may not happen. Try to bring your feet equidistant from the hips. And we're going to do the same side arm as the top leg. So right arm comes up, reach down the back, left arm, wrap it around, reach towards that right hand. If you can't reach, just grab your shirt. You can use a strap or a towel here if you like also. Release the hands, come into eagle arms with the arms. So bring the right arm underneath the left and wrap them around. Try to get the palm side hands squeezing together. Raise the elbows up to shoulder height. Look up towards the ceiling. Release the arms. Walk the hands out in front of you as much as you can. Really zipping up the hips here. Come to your breath. Letting it go, any tension you've been holding on to in your hips. Just feel the stress and the tension that's held in this biggest storage depot in the body for stress and tension. Just feel it melting away. Breathe into the hips. And inhale, come on up and switch sides. Bring the right heel by the left hip and the left heel by the right hip. And bring the feet about equal distance away from the hips on both sides. And raise the left hand up towards the ceiling. Bring it back down, reaching towards the floor. Take the right arm and reach it back and up. Reaching for that top hand, and if you can't make it, grab your shirt or grab a towel or a strap. Lift the chest up. Lengthen the spine. Focus your drishti on a single point in front of you. And release the arms, coming into eagle arms. Bringing the left arm under, right arm over, wrapping the hands around. Working towards having the palms of the hands pushing together. Elbows are shoulders height. Look up. And release the hands and walk the hands out in front of you. Just folding onto the knees. Getting a nice stretch on both sides of the hips. Breathe into the hips. Okay, and come on up and come on to your butt, soles of the feet in front of the hips. And we're going to come into boat pose, getting a little bit of strength through the lower back and the psoas muscles. Raise the shins parallel to the floor, bring the chest up towards the knees, suck the navel in towards the spine. You can keep your hands down, you can grab the backs of the legs, you can reach towards the feet. If you like to come into the full expression of the pose, you can straighten the knees. You might be too tired like I am right now, so just do what you can and breathe. All right, drop the legs, bring the legs flat on the mat in front of you. You can bend the knees if you need to. Push into the hands, raise the spine, raise the crown of the head towards the ceiling. And exhale, walk the hands towards the feet. Grab the big toes if you can. You can even wrap around the feet if you want to come into a deeper stretch. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold. And come on back upright and roll onto the back, soles of the feet, as close to the butt as you can get them. Hug the knees into the chest. Rolling around on the spine from side to side, giving yourself just a little massage. Drop the left foot down to the mat and bring the right heel over the left knee and reach in through this hole that you made with the right hand and reach on the outside of the legs with the left hand and pull that knee in closer to the chest. Just getting another nice stretch through the hips. We did a lot of work around the quadriceps and the hips and the glutes. So we're going to show those areas some love and just stretch them out a bit. Drop the left foot down, switch sides, bringing the right heel over the left knee, reaching the left hand in through that hole, right hand on the outside of the leg, and grabbing the knee. Release the right foot down. Bring the right leg over the left, eagle legs. Bring the hands out to the sides and just drop the knees down to the left. Turn your gaze over to the right hand. Feel the breath expanding the ribs. Feel the stretch through the side of that right hip. If you want a little bit more of a twist, you can bring your left hand to the top of the knee there and just pull it down. Making sure to keep the right shoulder blade connected to the mat. Bring the knees up and switch sides. Bring the left leg over the right. Arms out to a T. And just let the legs fall to the right side. Turn your gaze over the left hand, keeping the left shoulder connected to the mat. Pushing down on the knees with the right hand if you would like more of a stretch. Inhale, bring the knees back up to center, coming into happy baby, bringing the knees to the outside of the chest, grabbing the outsides of the feet, and just pulling the knees down towards the mat. You can roll from side to side here, giving yourself a little back massage. interlace the feet. Drop the legs down to the mat. The feet are a little wider than mat's distance apart. Let the feet flop open. Rest the backs of the hands on the ground beside you. Roll the shoulder blades in towards one another's, opening up the chest. Make any adjustments you need to make in order for you to be able to completely and fully relax. Ideally, in an hour-long class, we would stay in Shavasana for at least 10 minutes. Let the breath come back to a natural pace. Just become present, become aware to the sensations in the body, all of the work that you just did. Just allow it all to settle into place. Notice the energy in the body now. over onto your right side, coming into a fetal position. Just resting your head on the right arm. And slowly push yourself up using the left hand, leading with the left side, reminding us to always try to remember to lead with the heart first. Keeping the eyes closed, come into a seated position, bring the hands in front of the chest, thumbs touching the heart center, an act of gratitude. We just take a moment of gratitude for ourselves, for bringing ourselves onto the mat today. Thank you for sharing your practice with